here's really what was happening. I had been shopping at, Suit Supply, Indochino. I had been shopping everywhere, Spier Mackay, all the different places you can name to get a custom suit. I had been going there, and I realized that there would be like one or two things missing from one brand that another brand would have, but then there'd be another two things missing from that same brand that the other brand had. So it got to the point basically where I was like, okay, look, I want to be able to, for me personally, and then for other individuals, I want to be able to, have it where guys can truly get like custom, can truly get something that's damn near bespoke, but for made to measure prices. Cause I was like, look, I want these certain things, but I don't want to pay bespoke suit prices for them. And I noticed that, I would ask around and talk to a bunch of different guys, and they'd say the same thing. They're like, I want a rope shoulder, but I don't want it like ultra padded, but I just want it roped like where the sleeve head is, and like little finite minute details of menswear and custom clothing that you couldn't really specify at an Indochino or Suit Supply. You really just pick from the options that they have. And so I was like, let me start looking around. Let me start trying to figure out, where can I go to do this for myself and for others, where it'll be affordable, but the quality will still be fantastic. If not, I would say better than, some of these bigger brands. And
so today I'm welcoming to the Hulseystyle, my good friend, and I would even consider him to be a mentor, Robert Jones. Robert, welcome to the Hulseystyle.
Thanks, Barry. How's it going? Everything working good for you?
It's going fantastic. I was actually going to start with that very basic question myself, because I've been following you for a long time on Instagram, and I've noticed recently that you're flying all around the United States. So what is it that you're up to? Are you up to business or pleasure, I guess?
So it's kind of a bit of both. I have a client, great friend of mine, Shane, who does dental marketing, and I'm a videographer by trade. So during my day, when I'm not recording style videos, I am filming videos and creating content for other businesses and individuals and brands. And so a lot of these have just been different offices where we have to go in, and film dental practices. And so it's a great way for me to get to travel and, see the world and have a good time, while making a little bucker. So it's fun. I enjoy it. I love what I get to do because, I get to film and document stories for people. And I think that's something that's just really cool. And it's something that everybody should be doing, in 2022. So it's very fun.
So I noticed that it seems like your last couple of trips have been to Florida. Where else have you visited?
Yeah. So far this year, we've done, of course, the last two trips were in Florida. One of those was for something else. And then I've been to Boston. I've been to Texas a whole bunch of times this year, been to California, San Diego, particularly, been to Wisconsin, been to Michigan, just a bunch of different places to film. And so it's really fun to get to go there and do something that I really don't consider work. I don't consider filming videos for myself or for anyone work. It's just something that I think is really fun, and it's a passion of mine. And so I'm just grateful to be able to do that.
Yeah, I guess it would have been easier to ask you what states you haven't been to. It sounds like you had a pretty hefty list there, if you will. So when you're on these trips, do you ever get to do anything for pleasure, or is it strictly business?
Well, yeah. So, I love cigars, of course. And so I do make sure to stop at different cigar places. I have my humidors back there. I get to fly. The really fun thing for me is getting to fly my drone in some of these more fancier areas. So like in San Diego, down in Destin, Florida, like just flying the drone really is what's fun to me. So even kind of work related is the fun stuff that I that I like to do. So it's pretty fun.
Yeah, you actually teed up the next question I was going to ask you, because one thing that I notice about you, and this seems like it's becoming, I don't know if trend is the proper word, but it seems more and more common in the menswear space that men are really relishing cigars and also cocktails. And I've noticed on your Instagram that those are two things that you, how shall we put it, you enjoy regularly. We'll put it that way. So how did you develop this passion for cigars and cocktails?
Well, so with the cigars, kind of how all that got started was I have in my prior life, I was a insurance agent, and I was a bad insurance agent. So one of my bosses, when I sold my first policy after about a year of being an insurance agent, he was like, let's, since you sold a cigar, he had just came back from Cuba, and he was like, let's have some Cuban cigars. And so that was really the first time I ever had a cigar. And then just over the years, meeting people that also smoke cigars, clients, friends of mine, I just kind of fell into that. And, I do have more cigars than I probably should, but I think 2 or 3 a week is fine. As long as I'm not like, smoking every day, multiple cigars a day. Like this week, I haven't had one since Saturday. So I'm doing since Saturday. So I'm doing pretty good. But really, the drink stuff is kind of new. That's something I'm still learning and, getting familiar with, is how to make cocktails and, how to make drinks. But really the only thing I ever drink is old fashioned. I just think it's a great drink, and I love the ones that I make. So.
Yeah, I think that those are two menswear trends that I don't know if it's accurate to describe them as menswear trends. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't think that those are trends that I'm ever going to be able to get into. It must have been about, how old am I? 32. Yeah. I used to smoke cigarettes. So I smoked cigarettes from the time I was probably like 18, 19 until I was about like 23, 24, kind of off and on. And I always really loved cigarettes. And I knew people who smoke cigars, but they were always just like, well, first of all, they're way too strong. And then second of all, you can't inhale. And I just found that like a lot of the pleasure of smoking the cigarette was feeling the kind of singe on the back of your throat when you're smoking it, which I just couldn't get with a cigar. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to get into that. And then as far as mixed drinks go, usually people mix the drinks with like really other unhealthy drinks. I'm kind of like a health freak and a health nerd. So I'm just like, if I'm going to drink alcohol, I'm going to try to drink the healthiest one. So I just drink red wine. So.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from in both regards. As far as the cigars, yeah. So for me, the cigar is not about tobacco. It's not about the nicotine. It's not about just smoking. It's about the experience and what it does for me. And what that is whenever I smoke a cigar, I feel relaxed. When I smoke a cigar, it makes me slow down. It makes me think clearly with an open mind about how the world works and the decisions that I should make in the world. And so really I feel like my best ideas and, my understanding of things come when I'm sitting out on the back deck and I'm, enjoying a cigar and I'm watching something on my phone that's either, funny, or it's something that's like serious that I'm learning from. So it's really just a way for me to slow down and just take the time to appreciate, what I'm doing at the moment. And it really just gives me a sense of calmness. And so that's kind of my inspiration. It's not just like I'm looking for the biggest nicotine high I could get, because I don't get a high from it. It's just something that I picked up that I think is fun, and I think it serves a good purpose for me. As far as what you said about the mixed drinks, I am the guy that likes, sweet drinks. I don't like just like you mentioned, wine. I love wines. But I'm not a connoisseur where like I have to have like the super good quality stuff or like the really expensive stuff. I'm not that type of guy. I just like to make different drinks and enjoy them. I've never been drunk before. I don't plan on getting drunk. I don't see the purpose. And so I just like drinks that you can sip on and enjoy. So
That's interesting. A couple things there. So it seems to me like, first of all, like smoking a cigar as opposed to smoking a cigarette would lend itself to kind of speculation, which is what you're suggesting, kind of the purpose cigars serve for you, at least in part. Because a cigarette, you just smoke it really fast. A cigarette takes, at tops, 3 or 4 minutes to smoke.
Yeah, it doesn't linger.
Yeah, precisely. Whereas, cigars much larger. And then also, you've never been drunk?
Nope, never before in my life.
So when you're drinking the liquor, like how much do you drink normally?
I don't drink that much. Just like if I'm, like an old fashioned is not really 1 or 2 or 3 old fashions is not enough to get you drunk. I don't drink that much. Like it's just
is old fashioned a whiskey or what is it? Bourbon or?
Yeah, I put like bourbon in it. I put like American honey or Jack Daniels or something like that in there. But yeah, and then even, I will say every once in a while, I do feel really like masculine and manly and tough. And so I will then like drink just some bourbon, like some good bourbon by itself, but I'm not a big, snob or whatever, as they say.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting though. You have 4 or 5 drinks and you don't get drunk. You have a pretty good constitution.
I maybe have 3. The most I'll usually have is 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could say the same, but I've been drunk more times than is good for me. Yeah. With wine though, like the thing is that it's a little bit odd in that it's like somewhere between beer and liquor, kind of like lingers in between there as far as like the alcohol content is concerned, so I could get away with drinking a whole bottle a night. Not to say that I do that every night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I noticed, like when I was drinking wine, I could drink a lot of wine and not feel anything. So I don't know if my tolerance is just good. Funny story I'll actually mention. I probably shouldn't mention this on this podcast. I won't say who gave me the edibles or what, but I will say I did have one of those one time, and we had been doing the shots of whatever it was. And that was an interesting experience. And I probably won't do that ever again, but that was definitely something. It was a good experience, but I won't be doing that anytime soon. So,
yeah, I think I've never taken edibles myself, so I don't know how they would affect me. I know a lot of people who have taken them who say they're like extremely strong, and I don't know if I should be saying this on this.
We could cut podcast. This out if we want to.
yeah, there's that, right? But I was actually, I don't want to say addicted to marijuana because I just don't think marijuana is really addictive, at least in the sense that like, tobacco in the form of cigarettes usually, and, alcohol are, and that you don't develop the same kind of physical dependence on it. But there was a period in my life in my early 20s, I would say probably from like 19 to probably like 23, 24, where I smoked marijuana every day. And then I probably smoked with that 4 or 5 times a day. So that kind of stage of my life is actually kind of quite a blank because I spent it most of the time stoned, which is just wild to even think about now at 32. But
yeah, anyway. Yeah, I've never smoked a what are they, a blunt? Like, is that what people call them, or a joint? They call them a joint. I've never had one of those.
They're just different methods of smoking. Joints a bit smaller, blunts a bit larger. But you're just throwing out words.
Mary Jane,
Cryptocona crunkalite.
I've just never, like, the smell of that is what turns me off. Like, I don't like the smell. And so, yeah, not for me. I like cigars.
All right. I think that's enough about
Yes,
alcohol and drug
our
use.
strange addictions.
So I thought now we transition to talking a bit about menswear. So one of the things that's unique about you on YouTube as a YouTuber in the menswear space is that you actually started your own clothing line, which I find fascinating. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, kind of what was your motivation for starting a clothing line to begin with?
Well, so here's really what was happening. I had been shopping at Suit Supply, Indochino. I had been shopping everywhere. Spier Mackay, all the different places you can name to get a custom suit. I had been going there, and I realized that I couldn't. There would be like one or two things missing from one brand that another brand would have, but then there'd be another two things missing from that same brand that the other brand had. So it got to the point basically where I was like, okay, look, I want to be able to, for me personally, and then for other individuals, I want to be able to, have it where guys can truly get like custom, can truly get something that's damn near bespoke, but for made to measure prices. Cause I was like, look, I want these certain things, but I don't want to pay bespoke suit prices for them. And so, and I noticed that, I would ask around and talk to a bunch of different guys, and they'd say the same thing. They're like, I want a rope shoulder, but I don't want it like ultra padded, but I just want it roped like where the sleeve head is, and like little finite minute details of menswear and custom clothing that you couldn't really specify at an Indochino or Suit Supply. You really just pick from the options that they have. And so I was like, let me start looking around. Let me start trying to figure out, where can I go to do this for myself and for others, where it'll be affordable, but the quality will still be fantastic. If not, I would say better than, some of these bigger brands. And so that's kind of really the inspiration, and it really just, over the years, I feel like it was kind of inevitable for me to launch my own clothing line because I've been doing menswear videos all this time. I know quality. I know how stuff should fit. I know the measurements. I know all that stuff. And so people would always ask, like, when are you going to launch your own clothing line? And so that was kind of the inspiration early on. It's just people always kind of knew that this would eventually happen. And so it just was a matter of time before I, found the right partner to partner with and, got rolling. So.
Yeah, I find this both fascinating and inspirational because I do have in my head the idea of one day making my own clothing line. I don't think that I'm going to be like particularly focused on suits necessarily, but I would like to create my own clothing line at some point. What kind of difficulties or challenges have you faced in creating your own line?
That's a great question. So the really the kind of the really the only hurdle that I really went through originally was a lot of different manufacturers and people that you work with. They want you to do like minimum orders and they want you to order like a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to order all this stuff in bulk. I want it to be one-offs. So like if a guy wants a one-off suit, he gets that one-off suit. So that was really something, in the beginning was finding someone that could do like just a one order minimum order. And then also just even knowing like where to go, where to look, who to find and all that kind of stuff. That was really kind of the difficult parts as far as starting it. But it's been a fairly simple journey so far. And then of course, when you start, you have your doubters, you have your people that, don't want to see you win. They don't want to help you. They don't want to, help you out because they feel like that you might be taking money out of their pocket, which is not necessarily the case when you help somebody else. And so those, I guess I would say those have been some of the early pitfalls. But when I think back on it, really none of that matters now. So.
Yeah. As far as like getting clientele is concerned, do you get most of your clientele online or from local places, or how does that work?
Yeah. So just about everyone that I've sold a suit to has been out of state. So like individuals that watch the channel are make up 70% of the purchases from the collection. So guys that live in California, guys that live in New York, guys that live in, Kentucky. So that's kind of been just the gist of it is, selling that stuff, selling the garments to individuals out of state. And it's simply through Zoom calls like this and, sending them our measuring guide and all that kind of stuff. That's basically how I've been doing it. So it really helped to have a base built up already. So that when I did launch this and people did see how good the quality was, it kind of was a given for them to, want to buy something. So.
Yeah, that's something else that I was going to ask about. Do you think like having a YouTube, having already kind of an audience, so to speak, kind of help you to launch your clothing line?
Oh yeah. Cause you sell a couple suits here and there locally, like to people that or someone refers you, because they ultimately, let me rephrase that, because it ultimately comes down to the channel. Every suit that I've sold so far, they know that I do YouTube videos on mensstyle. They've seen me wearing all these other brands. They know that I know the quality. They know that I know what I'm talking about. They know that I know how things should fit. And so ultimately, it all comes back to the brand. It all comes back down to the GentStyle YouTube channel, because that is like the proof of concept. If I was to launch this with no big following, like say if I had 300 subscribers or whatever, I don't think I'd be able to do the same thing that I'm doing now. So I just don't think it will work as well.
Yeah. Well, that's something I should definitely keep in mind going forward. So the next question I was going to ask you is concerning the GentStyle's future. So what is your vision, for GentStyle? Where do you see your clothing line going in the future, say 5-10 years down the road?
So that's an interesting question, because if you know me, I'm not really a super long-term thinker. I really just kind of let things flow, and that's kind of bad sometimes, but it's also good in other times. I don't really worry about things, but really the game plan, I still don't think the channel or the clothing line is where it should be as far as the number of people that are watching and the number of people that are buying clothes. And so for me, it's literally just continuing the straight and narrow and just releasing good content, getting more sales, and just improving the videos overall. So I guess that kind of answers your question.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah, I was just curious whether you have a vision in terms of what you see your garments doing in the industry. Like, for example, I was speaking last week with Oki, I'm sure you know, and he was talking about his kind of like vision for menswear going forward and how he wanted to really kind of bring back the idea or the garments that have drape, that have more structure in them. And that's kind of like one of the guiding ideas of his clothing line. So I was just curious if you have anything like that. Do you have a sense of like in what way your garments are distinct from others and how you see that moving forward?
So yeah, that's a great question. I guess for me, it really, I want the clothing line, the brand to be a brand where all guys, no matter what the size, the shape, because, I love like the stuff that he does, but I feel like not every guy could pull off that. And so I want to make sure that this line is something that every guy feels like they can wear it. I have guys that are, 350 pounds. I have guys that weigh 150 pounds. And so it's really just making sure that that individual can express what they want in that garment. So for example, today actually, the suit came in today. A guy saw the red suit video that I did. I did a video on how to wear a red suit like 4 ways or something like that. And he saw the video and he liked the suit so much. He was like, let me reach out, let me get one of these. And so we went through all the measuring process and all that kind of stuff. And when we got to the customizations, I was like, well, do you want to just go with what I did in the video? Because I have all that stuff, saved, of course. Or do you want to just pick your own stuff? And so we start going through everything. And he's like, I don't want a rounded boat shaped pocket. I want a straight pocket. And he's like, I want a pocket inside of the patch pocket. So we did that for him. And he's like, I want the shoulders soft, but I don't want them pleated. So we did that for him. And he was like, I want the lapels wide like yours. And so we did that for him. So really for me, the brand is just about personal expression. And I want guys to be able to pick a garment that is, one of a kind to them and really expresses what they're trying to achieve in their wardrobe.
All right. So now what I want to do is just transition very briefly and talk about you and your own kind of personal style. We've talked a little bit in the DMs, as they say, a little bit about your kind of like preference for trouser sizes. And we were talking about how you started to prefer a kind of fuller cut for your trousers. So I wanted to know, other than that example, of course, how your style has changed, if at all.
Yeah. So if you go back and you look at really early GentStyle videos, or even stuff I was shooting last year, a year or two ago, everything was slim fit. Everything was similarly styled. It's just been a change in the fit. I really nowadays don't like a slim fit trouser. I don't want any of my stuff to fit tight. And so I always order stuff fuller cut now. My jackets are fuller through the body and the arms. My pants are fuller. I usually do pleats. I cut everything high waisted. So that's really been kind of just the shift in my wardrobe and my preference. It's just been the way that I want things to fit.
Have you?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I enjoy really flamboyant colors. I, like pink. I like green. I like brown. And so I want to wear stuff that other guys don't have. And so that's kind of been just the main motivation. I feel like I always want to stand out. And so that's what I try to do whenever I, commission a garment for myself.
Yeah. And so I wanted to return just a little bit to kind of like the question we started with, which is, how has your style changed in response to these different environments that you're moving in? Do you still find, like, when you go out to, is it Destin? I want to say Destin, Florida. Are you going there wearing suits? Like, how is it that you're dressing in these different environments?
So believe it or not, and this is a common misconception that people have of me, they think I dress up 90% of the time. And really it's about a 70-30 mix. I dress casual most of the time. And so one thing I'm starting to do going forward with the channel is implementing more of those kind of casual ways that I wear clothes, because when I do go these places, I'm wearing shorts, I'm wearing loafers, like a Belgian loafer. I'm wearing a, really floral shirt that's very loose fitted. So I am, still kind of dressing up a little bit, but it's a lot more toned down than just a full suit. So that's kind of, what's been happening with me doing so much travel lately. And generally when I film stuff for clients, I really try to stay more comfortable. So that's just been the way that I roll as far as that.
Yeah. So that kind of relates to yet another question that I already asked you, which is when I was asking you about the future of GentStyle. Do you ever see yourself having more casual pieces in the GentStyle collection?
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely something that I'm actually looking to do right now, because, there's a niche group of people that like to dress up all the time, like me and you, or, prefer to dress up. But most people, they want to look good, but they still want to feel casual. And so for me, that's like recently it's crafting suits a little bit differently. going a really unstructured, going with no lining and this, that, and the other. So I still want to keep things kind of tailored, but I still want things to have a little bit more of an element of casualness to them.
Yeah. What do you see yourself kind of like moving into first? Are you going to be looking into like chinos? You're going to be looking into like t-shirts? What do you have in mind?
T-shirts, polos, like there's this one shirt where it's like I don't know the official name of it, but it's basically it's like a dress shirt collar, but it doesn't have any buttons like to a certain point. It just curves. And so like I like stuff like that. It looks a little bit more casual.
I think that's a one piece or swallow collar.
Yeah, something like that. And then just even changing jackets, like the kind of way that people think of jackets. Like I want to try stuff that has like no lapel at all. Like just think of a jacket that has like just this line and no lapel. So just different types of things and, but still keeping those traditional values of menswear, pleats, fuller cut. I just think that stuff is really, where my heart's at for the most part.
Yeah. Well, you can't go wrong. That stuff is truly timeless. So what I want to do now is transition to our viewer questions. Last time when I was speaking with Oki, I called them reader questions, and I realized I don't have any readers, so I don't know why I said that to begin with. But I thought we would start first with my good friend. Excuse me here. I'm just going to pull it up. Send message. This is DeHuge, who is also named Chris DiEugenio on Instagram. I hope I pronounced that correctly, but probably not. So what he wanted to know is, how should someone who is a government civilian employee dress every day at work? And so I asked him a couple follow-up questions to try to get some clarification. And he basically described this as being kind of a stereotypical office job. So what would be your recommendation to him as far as how he should dress in that dressing environment?
So the first thing I would say is to that wonderful sir is don't wear something that is, as far as I'm going to talk about is fragrance first, because every guy's got to have a decent cologne. But I'd say don't wear a cologne that's too like bold and that stands out a little too much in the office. As far as the outfits, I would keep it simple. Striped dress shirts, solid shirts, trousers. I'd wear a suit probably one day a week or twice a week just to show people like I'm the man and I have a suit. Since it is a government position and it's kind of probably more where you need to be humble, I wouldn't recommend wearing something like this, which is like very out there, unless you have that personality and people know you as the guy that dresses like this in the office. So it really just depends on what you're comfortable with and the environment, because some places are very casual offices and then other places are very strict. So it really just depends.
All righty. And then Austin had a question. He said, things to look for when you are getting a few polos, and do you have any brand recommendations?
So I currently in my wardrobe, I don't own a polo. So I really can't talk about polos because I don't own any. It's like hoodies. I don't have any hoodies. So, but if I was going to recommend you polos, the only polos that I'm really familiar with are Ralph Lauren polos. I like the little emblem there. I think it looks good. So I'd say, if you want to spend the money on those, wear those. But you'd really be probably better off price-wise if you go to Target and look at Goodfellow and Company. They have a lot of great options. So I'd probably do that. And then also look at something that's like Mizzen and Main, or like more of like a golf material. You know what I mean? Something that is, a thinner material and is breathable.
Yeah, just to piggyback off your answer, I would say first thing you have to figure out is kind of what your budget is, right? Because if you have $20 to spend on a polo, that's going to severely curtail what options you have. But as you mentioned, Goodfellow at Target is actually an excellent brand as far as like their polos are concerned. I have like 5 or 6 polos from Goodfellow, and they always seem to have like unique designs. They do things that make them just a little bit more distinct. And also some of their colors are really fabulous. I have like 3 or 4 polos. One's like a teal one that has like a cream trimming. Another one's like an olive one with also the cream trimming, and then I have like a brown one. But they do a pretty good job, I would say, of being kind of classically inspired, if you will. If you have a little bit more money to spend, $50, I would probably recommend Spier Mackay. I'm a bit biased. I really like Spier Mackay, but honestly, for a knit polo, which is what, well, it's not the only kind of polo that they sell, but it's probably their most popular polo. I mean, $50 for a knit polo. It's really well made, very
They are
breathable.
nice. I have a couple of those actually.
Yeah, I actually think I have probably like 5 now, and I actually just ordered another one yesterday. I just ordered a mustard knit polo. So yeah, I would highly recommend those to you. If you do have a little bit more money to spend, as you were suggesting, I would probably go with Lacoste or with Ralph Lauren, or of course, you can forget all those options and just look on eBay and see if you can get them for cheaper. That's also an option.
Go to Goodwill.
Yeah, Goodwill or Salvation Army. I don't know if you guys have a Salvation Army wherever it is that you live, Austin. Alrighty, so those are the questions that I have for you today, Robert. I know that you are on a time constraint, so I just want to say thank you very much for coming on to the GentStyle and speaking with me. And I just also want to say thank you very much for your assistance over the last year. You are one of the people who truly inspired me to start a YouTube channel, and you've always been there for me whenever I needed some advice about how to improve my videos. So I just want to say thank you very much for doing that.
Well, thanks, Barry. You've been doing a really good job. The quality has definitely been stepped up. I was watching your review on, I forgot the brand, but it was a pair of jeans, and you had a bunch of B-roll in there. And I know that's one thing I was telling you, like, you got to do B-roll. And so I'm going to forgive the fact that you are a Beatles fan, but you're doing a great job with everything else. So thanks for having me on, Barry. It has been a pleasure, of course.
All righty. Well, have a good evening.